Hi, I'm Riley McManus. Welcome to Word for Word, where we offer you an in-depth look at some of our interviews with newsmakers from across the region. You'll have the opportunity to hear word for word how they responded to the news of the day. Thunder Bay City Council will continue to review Soccer Northwest's latest proposal for an indoor turf facility next to the community auditorium, and it will receive a full report in the spring. Councillors voted unanimously Monday night to push forward. We were able to catch up with the president of Soccer Northwest, Michael Veneziali, after the meeting.
Okay, that was by far the longest and most heated discussion of the evening. What were some of your takeaways in your position?
I would agree that there was a lot of back and forth, but I think it was in a very positive direction. I believe every single councillor was pushing for this to go forward, and I really like the points that Mr. Benz and Mr. Katuga brought up in bringing forth two different ideas and two different price points. So it's not really a question of if it's going forward, it's just which one they decide to go with at that time, which I think is smart. I think they need to look at what the operating costs are going to be for these facilities in the short term and long term and make the best financial decision.
Just based on what we heard tonight and the report, which we have spoken about a bit, is your organization still confident in its original estimate of around 20 million? Did anything staff say through this report kind of impact you maybe questioning that?
No, we're still very confident the amount should come in very close to, if not right on, the amount we've previously proposed. When talking to the contractor up to a couple of days ago, they're still willing to do it for that $20 million amount. It's difficult to comment exactly what administration is speaking on when it comes to different costs per square foot, and even they talked about a 10% increase in size, because I still don't quite understand it yet. So I'm not saying they're right or they're wrong, I just don't understand, so I would need more clarification from them to figure out where they got those numbers.
And one of the points that came up, a couple councillors, I'm not going to guess that wouldn't be the best idea, but a couple were mentioning more of a bare bones facility and saying that's kind of what user groups want at this point. They just want something where the kids can go play, groups can go play. If that would get the price down, is that something Soccer Northwest is interested in?
Yeah, so the very simple answer is absolutely. I think a negative to, or a downfall of what we had in the first iteration of this is when the facility came forward, we weren't privy and aware to exactly the dollar for dollar for what was going into the facility. Now with this plan, working with the contractor, we know line item by line item exactly how much everything costs. So I think bare bones is not the correct way of terming it. I think essentially what you're doing is you're shedding the fat. So inside this facility, you're still going to be able to do everything you could in the previous facility. If anything, this field is actually slightly larger than the previous facility was. I can't remember, I think it was administration had brought it up about, how much seating is actually required. In my opinion, the seating in there is maybe even slightly too large, but we put in what City Council administration was looking for. So there are other ways that you can save money. I think what we're looking at doing is just not wasting money and just better spending it.
We heard a couple of, I guess, citizens questioning earlier tonight. I guess the specific point I wanted to ask you about is, questioning Soccer Northwest had kind of talked about potentially contributing fundraising in the past. They were asking, where is that fundraising? Can you just speak to that point that they were making?
Yeah, so when we brought that forward last time was when the vote was on the floor to approve the last funding, to actually build the facility, and we said, hey, look, we're willing to chip in to do this. Obviously, that hasn't gone through. It's very difficult to ask anyone for money when you don't know what's going to be happening. With this last iteration of it, we did tell council and administration that if this is approved, we want to chip in. We want to provide what we can. So we've talked about helping out with the soft costs, especially things that directly involve soccer from our group. So whether it be the nets and the benches and potentially the scoreboards and stuff like that. We have talked to fundraisers and we are looking at raising money, but we're not asking anybody for any money until we know this is going ahead. If we had done that 7 years ago, we'd still be holding on to their money. We need a commitment from the city and then we go forward. If anything is proof here, we've been here for 7 years. We haven't gone anywhere. We're going to keep working. Regardless if this gets approved or not, we're going to keep working.
Just building off something you mentioned in your first answer there, the back and forth, some people were asking some pretty solid questions, but at the end of the day, it seemed like that was a group of councillors that was on board with this project. It's just about finding the right way. Does that give you confidence after this discussion this evening?
Yeah, absolutely. You never know what's really going to happen until the vote, so I'm hesitant to say how confident I am in it. Hearing the questions asked, it really seems that they want to get a facility and get it for a cost that's affordable. The only thing that worries me in this is when there's two choices is where we've faltered before, is you can get a certain amount of councillors that approve one thing but not necessarily another. So I hope when it comes down to it that they can just agree and move a project forward.
The chief of Neskantaga First Nation says he and his members are willing to lay down their lives to stop the development of mining roads into the Ring of Fire. The strong message from Chief Wayne Muniz comes one day after the Ford government approved the terms of reference for the proposed Northern Road link.
We just heard about the announcement that was made regarding the proposed road that's going into our area. First of all, we have not provided our prior informed consent. This is a message to companies like the Ring of Fire Metals that they're going to need our free prior informed consent before they access our traditional homelands. This is unacceptable. This is something that's very concerning for us, and that's something that the CEO of Ring of Fire Metals needs to know, that you're not going to cross our river system without our free prior informed consent. You're going to have to kill us. You're going to have to do more than just getting access from the province of Ontario. So this is something that's very concerning for us, and this is something that we're going to defend and fight our rights. Our people are going to have a say as to when and how that's going to happen. You're going to have to destroy our lands before our people say that, and it's something that we will fight, and we are determined to protect our way of life, our rights, and this is a message to all the investors. If you want to come and do business in our traditional homelands, you have to get the free prior informed consent of our people. That is it. No government, no other nation can tell you that you can access our traditional homelands. If you don't, we're going to defend it. We're going to defend our river system. We're going to defend our homelands. You're going to have to kill us before you cross our river system. And that's a message to everybody and all the investors that want to access our traditional homelands. No roads are going in without our consent. No development is going to go in without our consent, without our free prior informed consent of our people. This is Neskantaga First Nation. This is Neskantaga's homelands. This is our way of life, and we intend to protect it. Even if it's losing our lives to it, we will do that. This is the sacrifice that we're going to make, this because we do love our homelands. We care about our way of life, and this is so important for us to say this to everybody. So to all investors, if you want to come and develop relationships on our community, get the consent from our people first before you start making plans to come to our traditional lands. That's the message I am carrying from our nations to everybody.
The Thunder Bay Regional Hospital is taking steps to address the shortage of on-site parking. A parcel of forested land along Golf Links Road was recently cleared to make way for nearly 200 new parking spots. I was able to speak with Vice President Peter Millema to get the details. So, Peter, will you tell us what is happening right behind you over there?
Yeah, so over the last couple of years, we've had some constraints on our parking, especially in the winter when we have to plow the snow, so we needed more spots. So what we're doing is building 197 new spots over behind us. Reason for that is we have growth happening with the cardiovascular program that's going to start in 2026, and that's going to bring in approximately 100 new staff and patients. And then we also have the 1040 building over there that's filling up. So as that fills up, we need parking for that. So we saw the demand, looked at the different options, and this is where we landed with a consultant's report to build a new parking lot.
And what were the other options that were available? Because I know some people had mentioned, stacking up because there's not so much space going. But
yeah, so we did look. There's a couple different spots on our property where we could put a parking lot. This was one of them. Looked at partnerships with other institutions to see if that would work, but the time on that just wouldn't allow it. Could potentially go across Golf Links Road, but there's then the risk of crossing over for patients and staff to cross over. And finally looked at a parkade, but the cost of a parkade is 6 to 7 times the cost per spot for a parking lot. Understanding that there's no snow removal required with a parkade, but there are other maintenance costs with that. So from a business standpoint, it was not affordable. It was not an option that we could consider.
Yeah, and that probably also would take a greater amount of time to build as well, right? When this is kind of something you were wanting more instant? Yeah,
absolutely. So a parkade would take, with the engineering studies and everything else, probably 2 to 3 years, whereas this we can get done in a year. So it was a factor.
And when did this start, and when is it planning to be finished?
Yeah, so we did the study in the fall. The trees were removed in February, so probably about a month ago, and it should be finished by the fall. is the plan right now to have this completed.
Perfect. And you said it was about 197 extra
197 extra spots.
spots, and that's going to be both for the patients that are here and for staff?
Yeah, so what we'll have to do is then realign where the parking lots are. So our key is to have patient parking as close to the hospital as possible, right? And then so staff parking that we currently have either at 1040 over there, we'll move over to this lot to create space over there, and then other staff would be moved back so we have patient parking closest to the hospital.
And has that kind of been a concern with, have you guys heard issues with patients kind of wanting to be closer or having to, drop off and walk still a little bit of a distance?
Recently I haven't heard that, but I'm sure if I go to Facebook I can find the comments that are saying that. Yeah.
Confederation College continues to help with the ongoing staffing shortages in the airline industry, as their Aviation Center of Excellence hosted 14 employers for a major job fair on Monday night. According to a 2018 study by the Canadian Council for Aviation, the industry will need 7,300 new pilots and 5,300 aircraft maintenance engineers by 2025. And those numbers have only grown since the pandemic. Associate Dean Matt Bunn says it's causing airlines to recruit more aggressively.
Tell us what's happening here today.
Great. Well, we've got a open house career fair or job fair of sorts. So we've invited a lot of local, regional, and some even national operators, aviation operators to come in, set up a table, meet with students that are enrolled, prospective students. We've got the career fairs open to the general public now. That's the second part. So we've got, just an opportunity for employers to meet current and prospective students.
How many grads will the college turn out this year in the 3 programs? 3, right?
We've only got 2 now at the Aviation Center. That's fine. So we've got the flight management program where students come in and they graduate with their commercial pilot's license. We also have an aircraft maintenance program. They come in and they get about 2 years of time towards their AME license.
So how many grads do you think you'll turn out this year on average, I guess?
On average between the 2 programs, we'll have about 60, 65 students about there graduate from both programs.
So I'm guessing their hiring rate's going to be pretty high.
Very high, yes. Basically anybody that wants a job in this industry is going to get it. As you can see here from this job fair, the employers are coming into the students. It never used to be like that. So you used to, as a student, have to go out and submit your resume, go to different organizations, compete for different jobs, and now the employers are coming into the students.
Yeah. So now they're competing.
You got it.
Yeah. Okay. So how many different, airlines or air companies do you have represented here?
Yeah, I think we've got 15 different organizations represented. And that's, from local and regional operators all the way, like I said, to national air carriers as well.
So is there opportunity to expand your programs, get more students in and more?
Absolutely, there always is, and we're looking to help fill the program that we have. The flight program is generally oversubscribed. We don't have a problem filling the flight program, but the aircraft maintenance program, we can take more students. That's kind of been the focus behind our efforts as of late, is to really push enrollment for that program. Both industries are in huge demand for pilots and aircraft mechanics. For some reason, the aircraft maintenance side of the industry usually doesn't get as much attention as the flying side. So we're really pushing hard for the aircraft maintenance side of operations and the program, of course.
And this is the time that people would be registering for school.
You've got it, yeah. Registration is on right now. Of course, both programs are done through the college, and as such, you have to apply through the Ontario Colleges Service System.
Okay. Both 2-year programs, 3-year?
Yeah, both are 2-year programs. They actually take a little less time, but they're classified as 2-year programs. The flight program is an advanced diploma, and the aircraft maintenance is a Transport Canada accredited program, where the 21 months that you complete here, which includes a 3-month co-op, that's new as of a couple of years ago, all counts towards your licensing requirements. So with Transport Canada, you need 48 months to get your AME license. So when students graduate from our program, they graduate with 21 months towards that 48.
Okay, so what did you want to add about what this is all about?
Yeah, there's a huge need in the industry right now to fill these positions, both for pilots and aircraft maintenance, and the college can fill that need. Like I said, we've got room in the aircraft maintenance program. We just expanded our flight program. We used to only take 60, now we're taking 65 students. So we're trying to grow the program as well. So there's a lot of potential to keep graduating more students.
Just curious, the airlines, are any of them, are you hearing from any of the airlines that they're reaching any kind of critical shortage? Like they won't be able to fly as many flights because there's such a pilot shortage out there?
I would observe the same thing as the next person that's trying to fly from Toronto to Thunder Bay and their flight gets canceled, for whatever reason, is that, yeah, you know what, I wouldn't say it's critical, but there's definitely a noticeable shortage.
Thunderwolves hockey fans were scooping up tickets on Monday for this Saturday's third-place game, with a trip to Nationals on the line. And everything ran smoothly at the Fort William Gardens box office after some major issues this past Saturday that caused a huge lineup that lasted for hours.
So you mentioned you were here on Saturday. Can you talk about what your experience was like?
It was long. I was here for about 3 hours waiting in line for tickets. The online system crashed and the phone lines weren't working, so we had to come down here and stand in line. So they had us all lined up here all the way to the end of the building and looped in the front here, and it was about 3 hours wait.
And do you have an estimate of how many people were here in the building?
I want to say about 1,500 people. I don't know for sure. I just heard that everybody was talking about how many people were waiting for tickets, and that's how much they were going to guarantee the people who were inside. So.
And you also mentioned they actually opened up the snack bar and the Thunderwolves came out and were serving people.
Yeah. So it was pleasant. Everybody was cheerful, even though it was early in the morning on a Saturday and nobody had planned to get out of bed to come down here to get tickets. They had the canteen open, and then the hockey team came out and served coffee for everybody for free. So it was quite pleasant. Nobody was really upset or angry at each other. Everybody was in good spirits.
And you're back here today. How was today's experience compared?
It was surprising that there's a lineup, but it's box office just opened, so I'm glad that I got here early this time and it didn't depend on the online service. So, yeah, so I'm hopefully to get a seat tonight and then enjoy the game, or for Friday.
And it was a shame what happened, but it also just shows how much support there is in the community.
Yes, yeah, it was nice, even though everybody was wanting the tickets. LU didn't win, but it was the furthest they gone so far in the playoffs in a long time, so it was really exciting. And then I think Friday's game will be really, really good because they'll be still in there for the bronze.
So can you just maybe talk a little bit about what happened on Saturday with the tickets?
Yeah, no, for sure. So we definitely had a very busy day on Saturday. We did our best to accommodate the very excited LU fans that came down. Unfortunately, our website with all the high traffic, unfortunately that did go down, but we were able to make sales at the box office. We first of all would just like to thank everyone so much for their patience and their understanding. As a result of the website going down, we did do our best for today to ensure that that would not be the case in working with our ticketing site to make sure we had all the resources allocated to ensure that everyone got tickets for this Saturday's game.
And is the website up and running again?
It most certainly is. Yep, up and functioning with a queue, and then we have some live sales happening as well as over the phone. So happy to accommodate. Once again, cannot thank the Thunder Bay public enough for being patient and understanding, as well as the support from Lakehead Thunderwolves. They were here on Saturday as well, helping to ensure that everyone had seats and coffee. The players came down. I mean, the circumstances were not ideal, but really appreciate the support and patience of everyone involved.
Thanks for joining us for today's edition of Word for Word. We'll be back again tomorrow with more interviews from across the Northwest.